go live?
Yes.
Yes, I just I want to try something. If this doesn't work, then let's see if this will work. I can see it going live. Okay. I'm not sure now if anybody can see me. Okay, I can see that. All right. Just a moment, sir. Can you see and hear me? Okay, I think we finally have it on. Yeah. But I just want to be sure that people can see and hear me. All right. Okay, so I think we can go ahead now. People can see and they can hear me. Let me just confirm. Please, can you see and hear me? Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir. I think we're good now. We can go ahead, sir.
Okay. Just 1 minute.
Yeah.
Just give me
one
all minute.
Right. All right, sir. All right, sir. Yes, we can. Oh, that's great. So yeah, so they can see and they can hear me. Thanks. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm not sure what happened, but I had a glitch. And my guest also is stuck in traffic, so you have to bear with us. But let's just go through our initial preliminaries. Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. So again, welcome to the Pastors Roundtable. It's my pleasure to have you here, and I'm sorry for the delay in starting. Technology, no matter how much you try, is what it is. The Pastors Roundtable is a place where pastors come together to have what we call life-giving conversations that edify the body and glorify the Lord. It's a forum to help you deal with issues, provide answers, and solutions. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my page, like it, and share. My name is Noruwa, and I'm your host, as usual. I always like to add that the views expressed in this program are those of the speakers. I like to always make that clear. Today, our topic is, I'm just going through this preamble so that when our guest comes, we can just dive straight into the main meat of our conversation. We're looking at politics, and we've said, is it orphaned in Nigeria? An orphan is somebody who has lost the father, lost the mother, and if there is no sibling if there is no family member or guardian to step up and play the role of father and mother, that orphan usually will end up as a destitute, on the streets, and who knows what will become of that person. A nation once known for its vibrant spirit is now grappling with corruption, inequality, and a profound sense of disillusionment. That is Nigeria's story. Tonight, we want to do a critical exploration, asking the questions that many ponder. Has politics been orphaned in Nigeria? More importantly, what role can the church play in reclaiming the values that seem lost in our country? Tonight, my guest is someone that God himself has called and prepared for the role of leading nations in Africa. Before we dive in, and I'm hoping that by the time I'm done with this, he would have settled into his hotel room and we can have this conversation fully. But I'd just like to take the pleasure of introducing Professor Vincent Anibogu. Prof is a renowned figure in leadership development. He's known for his passionate advocacy for integrity, ethics, and excellence in Africa. He has a background in analytical chemistry and extensive teaching experience. He was a professor in America before he left all of that and transitioned his expertise to guide individuals and organizations towards transformative change. Prof is a founding director general of the Institute for National Transformation. Established in 2007, the INT focuses on nurturing what we call the no-excuse leaders with exceptional skills and integrity to serve Africa. Prof actively promotes innovative and initiatives across Africa, championing solutions for ethical governance, youth development, and social transformation. Prof is a passionate mentor and coach. I dare say I've had the privilege of being mentored by Prof. He mentors leaders from both the public and private sector, inspiring them to embrace purpose-driven leadership and ethical practices. Prof is a renowned speaker and author. He regularly delivers keynote addresses and workshops, sharing his insights on leadership, organizational development, and social transformation. Prof is a strong advocate for African values. He emphasizes the importance of rebuilding the cultural and ethical foundation of African societies based on integrity, unity, and social responsibility. He's an embodiment, and he embodies commitment to building a generation of leaders driven by integrity and accountability, empowering organizations to thrive through ethical practices and sustainable values, creating a more just and prosperous future for Africa. Prof continues to be a leading voice in the quest for transformative change in Africa, offering invaluable guidance and inspiration to individuals and organizations seeking to make positive impact. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure tonight to welcome Professor Vincent Anibogu, who is going to join me as we have this very, very interesting conversation. Tonight, we'll unravel the impact of these challenges on everyday Nigerians. Most importantly, we'll explore the church's role in rebuilding trust, fostering unity, and promoting ethical leadership. Prof, are you ready? Wonderful.
Thank you, Pastor
Wonderful.
Noruwa, for inviting me.
Thank you so much, sir. It's my pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Yes.
Just a moment. I see that my background has changed from what I wanted it to be. All right, there it is. Very good. Good. Thank you so much, sir. Good to have you here. And did I add that I'm privileged to be a mentee of Prof, and thank you so much for honoring me with your presence tonight. So today we're looking at that very interesting topic, politics, orphaned in Nigeria. So Prof, I'd like to start by asking, when we first discussed this, what came to your mind? Let's start with that. When you hear that politics orphaned in Nigeria, what comes to your mind, sir?
Thank you so much, Pastor Noruwa, for this privilege, knowing you, and for the great thing you're doing on this platform. You're taking on the very difficult to answer questions. And of course, tonight is one of them. But let me say that that statement is so accurate. And how do you know? Whenever you see something dying, somebody is negligent. Somebody is not doing what they're supposed to do. And Nigeria is dying as a result of very bad politics. And after 63 years, going to 64, we have a very sick, a nation that has no clear vision, a nation that doesn't really have mentors, but we have more of people that want to use her for their individual and tribal aspirations, but not to help her as a nation to become all she wants to be. So Nigeria is truly orphaned because of bad politics.
So just by way of, give us a broad overview of our country's current state of politics and some of its challenges, just broadly.
Okay. To really understand this topic, you have to personalize Nigeria. Don't just look at her as an abstract territory, but look at Nigeria as a being. And by the way, God looks at nations the same way he looks at individuals. For example, he said, Israel is my son. So nation can attain sonship. So if that's true, then let's look at how you raise a child. To just put it in proper terms, if you have raised a child for 63 years and that child has no direction, that child is bankrupt, that child is corrupt, that child has no clear of vision, that child has no clear of his or her identity, let me ask you, has the nurturing process been successful? That's
No,
what you
sir.
have in Nigeria. A nation that has no identity, a nation that has no clear direction, a nation for whom no one has really taken responsibility. What you see are different groups taking turn to use her, to abuse her, and at the end, the individual is richer than the nation. That's the description of Nigeria for you.
Prof, are there historical factors that have contributed to the current state of affairs, do you think?
How did we
get
here? There's a common proverb that says, as you make your bed, so you will lie on it. If you make a beautiful bed, you will enjoy it, a good night's sleep. But if you neglected it and you use thorns and sticks and knives and guns to make your, then of course there's no way you can have a good night's sleep. So we historically, let me speak generally so that it doesn't appear like I'm attacking any group. I have found that indeed there's a difference between founding fathers and nurturing fathers, if you will. Founding fathers help give a nation birth, but they don't understand the mechanisms and the know-how that she needs to go through to mature. But there are fathers like Singapore that right from day one knew the right mix of nutrients, the right combination of values that the nation must imbibe. They were clear on things that must be confronted seriously. And though they were controversial, but in the end, those wisdom that they applied proved them right. For example, Singapore was made up of 4 races: Indians, Chinese, Malays, and so on and so forth. The Chinese constitute about 70% of the population of Singapore. They could have easily enforced Chinese as the lingua franca of Singapore by majority vote. But the leader, who is of Chinese descent, refused because he knew it would sow a seed of discord. He insisted that Chinese cannot be the common language of Singapore, but rather English. Of course, people fought him. Today, he has now built a community of 4 different races that now function together as one nation. Okay, bring it to Nigeria. The tribal politics that we have brought to Abuja is what's killing Nigeria. There has never been a leader who has the vision, the willpower to make us one people. Everybody goes to leadership with tribal, if you will, wish list, and they see their turn as the time to enforce those. Unfortunately, it keeps dividing Nigeria and not bringing us together. So tribal politics is number one. And until we do away with them, we will never have one Nigeria.
Okay, Prof, let me ask. You gave the example of Singapore. I'm wondering to myself, do we have or have we had an example of a nurturing leadership in Africa that, for example, we could look up to? Did we have one? Do we have one now? Or one that bears resemblance that you could say, yes, in the African context, so-and-so leader is an example of a nurturing leader?
The closest example I can cite is Julius Nyerere. Julius Nyerere, though he failed in building Tanzania economically, but he succeeded in building them together as one people. And he made Swahili the common language that mobilized and galvanized Tanzanians. Now, even unto death, and even to today, Nyerere, or Mwalimu, as he was fondly called, the teacher, is still respected as one of those that sincerely and honestly did his best for his country, and even forgiven for his economic woes, because he really expressed genuine love and care and was able to bring the people together.
There are some who say that democracy is really not suited for us. What is your take on that, sir?
Well, Pastor Noruwa, it depends on what you define as democracy. There's no nation where true democracy is practiced. Everybody will always pick and choose what they want. A little bit of dictatorship, a little bit of socialism, a little bit of democracy. You always find that there are as many types of democracy as there are those claiming such. There is no true democracy. Therefore, Singapore, for example, took a little bit of capitalism, a little bit of socialism, a little bit of Chinese Confucian discipline culture, and mixed it together to find what is good for their people. Nigerians and Africans must do the same. We must be sincere. We must be truthful. We must look for what really works and what will give us the results that we are looking for. Currently, democracy as practiced in Nigeria today is not working. In fact, it's a fake democracy.
Do you think we have what it takes to interrogate what we have? Are we, can we dare to interrogate it? Are we configured to do that today?
I think we can. As I carefully observe Nigerians home and abroad, I think there has been enough sensitivity to democratic issues. I think we are learning very quickly from the mistakes of the past. What is missing is a platform that can give full expression to have that discussion. Unfortunately, the political system in Nigeria is threatened by that honest and sincere discussion that ought to be held. We need to stop and ask ourselves, is it really working? Are we achieving the results that we expect? And if not, what can we do? We must endeavor to have that sincere discussion. And if history is anything to go by, a season will come when that discussion will be held.
Prof, in what ways do you think that the challenges that we face, both political and social, how are they impacting citizens, the everyday life of citizens? What do you think?
Oh, they're having a devastating impact on the life of our people. Recently, I flew to Anambra Airport, and a young lady, a nursing student at Nnamdi Azikiwe Teaching Hospital, Enugu, was sitting beside me. She is or was in her final year, because I'm sure she has graduated since then. And I decided to have a conversation with her. And I asked her, tell me, how do you feel about Nigeria and what is going on? The young lady told me, I really wish I can disappear to an island, never to think or remember Nigeria again. So I asked her why. He says the leaders are not sincere. They are not truthful. They only are thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about the nation or the future generation. I will be sending money, and those that will fight it will fight it. What does that show? We are quickly losing our children. They are losing faith in the nation, and that is because they have no faith, or confidence in the leadership. And that to me is most devastating, because everybody wants to leave the country, go to another country. And when I left Nigeria in 1974 to go to the United States, I went longing to just finish my studies and come back. But many of our children are not thinking that way. They want to escape. And I can only hold the leadership accountable. Because one thing you must never lose is the confidence of the people, especially the future generation.
Thank you so much, sir. For those just joining us, this is the Pastors Roundtable. It's a forum for pastors to come together to have life-giving conversations that edify the body and glorify the Lord. Tonight, our topic is politics orphaned in Nigeria, and our guest is Professor Vincent Anibogu. Prof, how do you see the role of the church in addressing the political and social issues in Nigeria?
Before I answer that, let's discuss what makes for good politics and what makes for national development.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Do you know the word politics? The original Greek word was politikakos. And that meant a model citizen, somebody worthy of emulation. That's why they were called distinguished, honorable, my Lord, Your Excellency, because they truly portray those qualities that the society should emulate. So the politics of that time tried to promote such people as the leaders, as the model. But there's another Greek word called politikasta. It means an imposter. Someone that's in politics but lacks the quality of statesmanship. So they answer Your Excellency, but there's nothing excellent about them. They answer Your Honorable, but there's nothing honorable about them. Unfortunately, the African politics or modern politics has promoted the wrong version of politician and not the original intended version of politics. Where people of honor, people of distinction are selected to become a model, because the leader you have, people tend to aspire after the leaders they have. They are the ceiling. So with that background, who do you think is supposed to produce those distinguished gentlemen and ladies? Who is supposed to develop them? It's the church. That's actually what we call sonship. Today I've begotten my son. You are a model in character, in functionality. Now I want to promote you as a light to shine. Now ask me, I will give you a territory to influence for me. The number one person that has totally lost their responsibility in politics is the church. Because when they are having members and they're not helping to train them and mold them so they can become the lamp that is lit and hung in different spheres of the society, when they don't do that, during time of politics, we don't have many good people who have character and functionality to be selected from.
So, sir, what can we do? I mean, you said it, we know what the challenge is now. So is there a remedy? Is there hope for the church?
Well, actually, the question is there hope for the nation? And the answer is yes.
Okay.
First of all, let's go back to the original template that God gave us. He said in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, let us make man in our image and our likeness. And God said, if we succeed in making men and women in God's image and likeness, he said they will have dominion. Another word for dominion is that they will have influence. That's a template for leadership development. If the church can follow that and become deliberate in raising men and women that have the character and the functionality of God, then there is hope for the nation. Why? They will have a pool of good people to choose from.
In practical terms, Prof, so here I am, like I always say on this program, I like to give the leaders who listen. And interestingly, I find that more and more, leaders listen to this program. People stop me and say, oh, that program of that day. So, sir, in practical terms, here I am, I'm a pastor, that fellow is a pastor, and he wants to do something. What can I do? Where do I start from? If I want to say, okay, in my little corner, I want my lights to shine, I want to begin to prepare people, what can I do?
Excellent question. It comes back to teaching, mentorship. And there are 4 critical steps that every church must have if they are going to contribute towards nation building. Of course, step number 1 is deliverance. And a lot of churches are already doing this, leading people to light. Leading people to light. Leading people to life in Christ. I totally believe in that. And by the way, I'm a chemist. I have a PhD in chemistry. And even as a scientist, I now believe more in that than even when I was not a chemist. But what does deliverance say? Deliverance basically says there are right and wrong ways of living life. Choose life. Choose light. And I have found out that the way of Christ is uncompromisable. Even Singapore developed because they followed the righteous teaching of Christ, even though they didn't know that's what they were following. So the first step is to lead people to light. The second step is to go take them through quality discipleship that produces a character of integrity. Integrity is lacking in Nigeria. Character, people trustworthiness is missing. Number three, when you mature them in character, number three, help them to discover their potentials, their specific area of passion. Is it politics? Is it business? Is it education? Is it in entertainment? People have inclination to one of these 7 areas. You need to help people to find it. And Pastor Noruwa, a combination of character and passion for success will always create a winner.
So, Prof, where are we missing it?
We are not helping people.
We have many churches. We have many churches. We have deliverance. We have salvation. We have different, but, it's like the output of all of this that we see is such that, sometimes you cannot even tell the difference between the so-called Christian and the non-Christian, particularly when it comes to politics. So my question is there something wrong with the method that we're using? Is there something wrong with the process? So what could it be, and what can we do differently?
Now, you know what we do in the Institute for National Transformation?
Yes,
There's
sir.
a method, a system we use called History Makers Training. We create, now we used to do it for just 3 or 4 days. Nowadays, I do it for 2 weeks, even up to a month. What do? If you are going to mold people's character, you can't do it just preaching from the pulpit. You need to take them to a place where you will control their 24 hours. And you create what you want them to do. For example, they wake up at 5:30, and then they will start with devotion. Then they go through exercise. Then, of course, they eat breakfast. Then you go through mindset changing lectures that will shift their values. And you stretch them until late at night. When you do this for a week or 2, you end up producing people, number 1, who are hardworking, number 2, who are time conscious. They now keep to time, because if they don't come in time, even by 1 minute, you penalize them. What am I trying to say? If you know what the army do to mold young people and put discipline in them, the church should start doing the same. You must create a mode, immerse them in that mode. As they conform to that mode, they form the character attribute that you want. What's killing the church today is that they keep everybody in the pew. They preach you a nice, sweet sermon. They never time you. They never give you exam. They don't know if you're learning. They don't know if you're growing. They don't know the value you're adding. They're not monitoring. They are not testing. And so they assume that people are picking up these values when most of them are not.
Food for thought. Trust is a significant issue, Prof, particularly in Nigeria today. If you say good morning now, the guy wants to check that it's really the morning. And it doesn't matter who is saying the good morning, whether it's the Chief Justice or the governor or the president there's very little trust. How can the church contribute to rebuilding trust within communities such that somehow it can seep out into our politics and we can begin to see change? Because without trust, you cannot build a coherent society, even from the home front all the way up to, so what can we do to help to rebuild some of that trust that has been damaged in our society?
I'm going to give this example, and I'm not giving it because from political perspective. A man joined, said, I want to run for president, and then started giving account of what he has done. And when he finishes, he said, go and check and see if it's true or not. What do you think will happen? People started to, I'm not talking about the political, I'm just telling you a man that won the trust of people, Peter B, just because he said, this is who I am, go and check. And some actually went and verified. Trust begins with character. When you say you will do something, you do it. And you actually follow through. When people see that you're a man of your word, it doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your tribe. People will admire that quality and they will drift to that quality. The day you present to Nigerians a sincere candidate that loves Nigeria, loves God, wants to help the people, wants to devote his life, Nigerians will love such a person. It has been demonstrated. Question is, do we have a political system that is honest, transparent, sincere, to allow the will of the people to be expressed? And that's another battle altogether. But to build trust, bring people that are trustworthy, and everybody will galvanize around such people.
Thank you, sir. This is the Pastors Roundtable, just in case you are joining us. And if you have questions, let me see. Somebody says, Dear Prof, would this discussion ever be allowed to hold without violence? You referred to a conversation that we needed to have, but the political class is not allowing us to have that conversation. Somebody is asking that, is that conversation, will it be possible without violence? Another person is saying, talking about a nurturing leader. Somebody is saying, sir, is Kagame of Rwanda post-genocide anywhere close? Let me see. Somebody says, the leadership issue we have in Nigeria is a reflection of our larger society. Leadership at every strata in Nigeria, including the church, needs to go back to the basics. Okay, so Prof, you want to comment on any of this before we continue?
Let me comment on the first one. That conversation can be held without violence. We need to come to the end of the road and realize that what we're doing is not working. I think our elders must come to their senses and make up their mind to bequeath to the younger Nigerians a Nigeria that has a clear vision, clear direction. So I believe if they can come to their senses, that conversation can be held. But if it had to be violent so that the right thing will be done, then that history may have to repeat itself. But the bottom line is that let the right thing emerge at the end of either peaceful confrontation. Now, Kagame, as I told you, raising a nation is like raising a child. When a child is not very mature, you don't release full authority to the child. But as the child matures, you release authority to them. I have seen Paul Kagame raised Rwanda from a baby. They are now reaching adulthood. And I believe very soon we enter a season where he doesn't need to be as dictatorial. He needed to be to control some external forces that were using some of the people inside to destabilize the nation. But he has now raised enough of the young people who understands what he desires, where the nation is going, and they are taking ownership of the development of Rwanda. And I think in no distant future, he can hand over to a younger generation that has been well trained and matured, who see themselves as Rwandese, no longer Tutsis and Hutus, but they see themselves as one. And a lot of hard work.
So we can say that Kagame is, maybe one of those examples that he's not fully there yet, but at least he has shown some signs. All right. So somebody's asking here, so I say, what role can religious leaders play in fostering unity among the diverse groups in Nigeria?
Well, unity must be defined. The kind of unity we want is righteous unity. Unity that will make for genuine peace. Unity that can lead to character molding, because there are sets of characters and values we must subscribe to that will make for a peaceful nation. It is values that build nation. So you don't just bring people together and they're doing what they like and you can have peace. It will not happen. So first, our religious leaders must preach righteousness and justice. Justice. Speak up for the oppressed, no matter what tribe, no matter what religion. We need to stand up for the poor. We need to defend them. And we must hold government accountable for the poor, the needy, and so on. And also against injustice. They must speak up against injustice. They must never keep quiet. But they must also promote, if you will, discussions among various groups by training, by teaching, because you can't unify people to whom you have not given new knowledge and new ideas. If you don't give people new ideas and new knowledge, they will not change. They will keep making the same argument. So we need to inject deliberately, more deeper discussions, deeper ideas, and so on and so forth. If we can do that, I believe with time, things will work out.
Prof, can the Nigerian church birth a Martin Luther King?
Oh, well, Martin Luther Kings are not birthed by church. Martin Luther Kings are people that God anoint and they give direction to the church. Look at this young man at the tender age of 22 years old, a fresh graduate from Boston University, just giving his first pastoring assignment in Montgomery, Alabama. And suddenly there was a crisis where a lady was refused to sit on the bus, or was asked to give up her seat on the bus and she refused. And the whole Black race refused to ride the bus and decided that they will fight it and picked this 22-year-old young man to lead them. I think that's divine direction. That's a divine setup. We just have to keep praying that God himself will raise a Martin Luther King Jr. in Nigeria that can give the church direction. I don't think the current church can raise a Martin Luther King Jr.
Prof, how can individual church members become active in, politics? Should they even dare to go near politics? What kind of preparation does one require? Because it looks as if every time, in quote, good people, in quotes, take notes, go into politics, they come out, stained, crippled, so should we just run away from it? Is there a way we can approach it? How do we go about it?
Pastor Noruwa, Mahatma Gandhi said, and if you read his book, I will remember the title before we finish. He said, what in all my work, what I was pining for, to see God face to face. That was his consuming desire. But he said that desire has even pushed him into politics, and says that anyone that sincerely loves God and says that God has nothing to do with politics have no idea what they are talking about. They are not passionate enough. They are not hungry enough for justice and for righteousness. Let me say this. Christians, young people must go into politics. What is politics? To go and enforce righteousness and justice. To go and ensure that the right things are done. To go and ensure that the right laws are enacted. To go and ensure that the rights of the poor, the underprivileged are protected. That's politics. Who should fight for those? Those that are passionate for God. They're the ones that should do it. But what I would say, there's a proverb that says that a child who is not strong enough and start probing what happened to his father. So if you're not careful, what happened to your father will happen to you.
Happen to you.
So go and be strong. Fortify yourself spiritually. Fortify yourself emotionally. Fortify yourself intellectually. Fortify yourself with good social skills so that you will know how to mix up with people. And make sure you also fortify yourself physically by having good health, good habits, because politics, genuine politics is a lot of hard work. They can strengthen themselves in these areas, and they know God is calling them to do it. They should leave no stone unturned to answer that call.
Thank you, Prof. As we begin to wind down, Prof, there are those that say that church should concentrate on spiritual matters and should leave politics alone. Is there a balance?
It depends on what you call spiritual things. Even the scripture in Isaiah chapter 6, verse 9 said, unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. He said, government is rested on his shoulders. And of the increase of his government, there shall be no end. What are we talking about? The very Christ we are preaching, on his shoulder is rested the kingdom governance, which covers also. Pastor Noruwa, the word of God said that through him all things are made. Without him, there are nothing made that is made, whether they are thrones, dominions. These are political spheres. What are we talking about?
So we are most suited, in other words.
Listen, you can never You can never influence righteousness in any nation if you are not in a position of influence. When corrupt people rule, corruption festers. When righteous people rule, righteousness none. Listen to recent campaign in Singapore for their prime minister. The campaign says, if you have any record whatsoever, don't run. But in Nigeria, if you have a record and if you can cover it well, go ahead and run.
Run. It is well with Nigeria. So, Prof, in the light of all that we've said and what we know, what is your outlook for the future of politics and the role of the church in Nigeria?
My outlook is that it's time that we, our generation, whom God is giving the last breath, the best thing we can bequeath to the nation of Nigeria is to use the remaining energy we have to raise sons, people of integrity, people of excellence mindsets, people that know how to function. If we can bequeath that to Nigeria, then there's hope for Nigeria. But if we don't raise such people deliberately and prepare them to take over from us, then I can say I have no hope for Nigeria. But since I'm still alive, as you know, in the Institute for National Transformation, that's our goal, that's our passion, and that's what we will continue to do. So there is hope for Nigeria.
All right. Before I ask my last question, Prof, if you don't mind, can you tell us a bit about INT?
Well, Pastor Noruwa, as you know, the Institute for National Transformation was established in 2007 to raise value-based, no-excuse leaders that can penetrate different spheres of the society and make positive impact. And in the last 15, 16 years, God has helped us to train leaders in Uganda, Rwanda, South Africa, Ivory Coast, even in North America. And I can tell you that some of those leaders are really making impact in their spheres of influence. So we invite anyone that wants to be a part. We offer a 6-month course online, and the next cohort starts in February. And please, if they're interested, they can call the number 0803 580 2659. Again, 0803 580 2659 for more information.
Thank you, Prof. And you can also ask me, I'm an alumni. For some of you who know me, if I were to say that, you know, who I am today, Prof and INT have contributed largely to my worldview. So I recommend the INT to anyone who's listening. If you get in touch with me, I can always link you up. So, Prof, finally, what are the key takeaways or actions that you like our listeners to consider after this conversation?
Pastor Noruwa, the first takeaway is that the church is responsible for raising people of light. People light that can be hung in different spheres of the society. And for them to do that, not only do you deliver them, you must disciple them to become sons, and then help them to discover, you know, God's calling and purpose in their lives. It's not just in the church. Some are called to be business leaders. Some are called to be educators. Don't impose your calling on them. Find out what God has put in them. And then when you do, help them to be placed in the society, and then encourage them to manifest. If we can do that collectively, given that we have well over 80 million Christians in Nigeria, will be intentional lights shining everywhere and brighten up Nigeria. And that will lead to national transformation.
Thank you very much, Prof. A wonderful place to round this conversation up. Thank you so much, everybody that has joined us today. And sorry again for the initial glitch. I don't know what happened between Zoom and YouTube. Thank you so much. Next month, by the grace of God, this program will come up on the 17th of January, 8 p.m. That's the third Wednesday. Take note of that. And I would be speaking on strategic planning. It's the beginning of the year. It's a good time to plan. So let's look forward to that. Thank you so much. Once again, Prof, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And I'll see you again next month. And Merry Christmas in advance and Happy New Year. Thank you so much, Prof. And please say me well to Mama Peggy. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, everybody. God bless you. Bye.